Hey, good evening, everybody. Welcome to Racers News Network. The same bat time, the same bat channel, just a different bat day. Of course, I'm talking about we're going to be Tuesday nights at 7 o'clock Eastern for a little while due to some work commitments. But that's all right. We're going to make everything fun, as always. You never know what's going to happen on this here show. We are expecting our guest, Lyle Barrett, NHRA Pro Mod Racer, to be joining us this evening. Hopefully he will be coming on fairly soon. But even if he's running a little late, that's all right. There is a whole lot of stuff to talk about. Personally, the one thing taken away from the past few days, and I'm sure Pete's going to agree with me, 700 plus car count for a double divisional in St. Louis, Missouri / Illinois / Worldwide Technology Raceway Park. I think that's the biggest thing that's happened pretty much this year. I would have to say, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I mean, being partial to Division One, I think the crowd that Maple Grove drew for the national event was crazy impressive. But yeah, I mean, 700, I think it was 723 or something crazy like that. I mean, granted, I know it was a double, but I don't care if it was a 4 races tied into one. 700 plus cars is unheard of. It's crazy.
Yep. Oh, absolutely.
And it still goes back to NHRA divisional racing is dying, NHRA is dying, drag racing is dying, fuel costs, blah, blah, blah. I mean, it seems like it's pretty healthy to me.
I would hazard a guess that you, my friend, are right. And there was some Division One hitters that made the trip. Of course, starting Volpe went out and ran out there. TC Smith and a few others made the journey as well, trying to wrap up their divisional series and see where they where the chips fall points wise.
Yep.
So
yeah, I mean, I just like I think Al Kenny posted it and said 700 plus cars, and then the next day, because I think they updated it on Saturday, and I think the final count was 720 and change. And I remember reading his post, and I'm like, could he have fat fingered that and meant to hit like the 4 instead of the 7? It was just like, it made no sense to me. I mean, I didn't even think a facility could hold 700 cars.
Right.
It's wow. That's pretty mind-boggling.
Yeah. Oh, like I said, it's crazy to think about it, because it was funny because one of the first things that the Division 3 put up was, we know Division 1 canceled last week at Virginia, which is basically like saying, come on out, join the party.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I'm no geography major, but I don't know, with the prices of everything being what they are, I mean, I could understand like, a dozen people that we know going out there. But I don't know. I don't know what I don't have a reason for what the turnout was there. I just don't, it's not like we've been seeing 600 at all the divisionals, and then all of a sudden they popped off a 725, and it's like, oh, that's, pretty good. I mean, around here, we've been, you do the guessing game. So, I mean, we're anywhere between low 2s to mid to high 4s, right? I don't think we saw, did we see a 500?
Pretty much. I think the average has been anywhere from, like I said, mid to low 2s to mid to maybe little bit higher 3s.
Right. We might have seen a mid 4. I mean, again, I'm terrible at keeping track of this stuff, but
yeah,
that's pretty impressive.
Absolutely. Yeah, so we're gonna hit the results from that in a little bit. Like I said, we are waiting to see if our guest shows up tonight. One of the other things that I saw brought up was excessive braking seemed to be a thing that was that reared its head, and obviously everybody knows what that is. But it seemed to be a hot topic of conversation from Worldwide Technology Raceway.
Yep.
So, from your aspect, why don't you talk a little bit about excessive braking? You know what it is, and kind of the what it can lead to.
Well, we all know what it could lead to. It could lead to ugly, right? We've seen some pretty nasty crashes. Um, in my early racing career, I had a dragster and I was down in Florida racing the Moroso 5-day. And I was in the stands watching racing. I don't know if I was waiting for my group to get called or I was done for that day or whatever, but I remember very vividly a dragster tumbling through the air at the finish line, and something happened where he smashed the brakes really hard. Something broke in the rear end, catapulted him, and that's the first time in my life I ever saw a Life Star in action. Don't know who the gentleman was. I know he survived. Beat up, banged up, but he was okay. But ever since then, I kind of always had the attitude of, if I have to hit my brakes that hard to try and get a win light, it's not my style of racing. Now, listen, I'm not going to fault anyone that does it. To each their own. I'm sure a lot of people do it and they're very good at it. It's just never been my cup of tea. I am also not, I'm a below average finish line driver, in my opinion. So I rely on setting up the car and making it run the number. So all I got to do is give it a little scrub or maybe a couple of rips of the throttle, and that's what I rely on. So my opinion could also be a little bit on the sour grapes because I frankly am kind of lost up there. So, it's all fine and nice until it becomes a danger. And I don't care how good you are or how many times you do it. If there is smoke coming off your tires, it's danger, in my opinion, and shouldn't be allowed. Um, that's basically where I stand with it. I don't have a problem with people hitting the brakes. Set your stuff up so that you could slow down as much as you want without it being a hazard to you, and more importantly, the person in the other lane.
Very true.
So what was the outcome? Did they announce that they bounced people this week there, or warning?
No, there was on a couple of pages, there was just a couple of comments from people saying maybe it's time that they address it, and because it seemed to be an issue. As far as I know, nobody got bounced. The only thing that I've seen so far was there was obviously horsepower on a couple of combinations. That's the only thing that I've seen so far. It doesn't mean anything won't come later.
Right.
But yeah, it was a topic of conversation on a couple of Facebook pages.
It's kind of like the wearing a seatbelt in your daily driver, or wearing a helmet if you're riding a motorcycle. If you're only endangering yourself, I think it should be your call as to if you want to do it or not. But at the end of the day, at the finish line, you're supposed to be side by side with your competitor. That's how bracket racing is set up, right? It's, if you get the same light and you run the same ET, it should be a dead heat at the end. So
Yep.
when you're getting aggressive down there, you're not just putting yourself in the line of fire, but you got innocent bystander in the other lane that you can entangle them, and that's to me where it gets a little tricky, and they should probably try and force it as much as they can
Right.
to prevent something like that.
I have attempted to message our guest. I haven't heard anything back yet, just to
Okay.
let you know. Rob made a comment, centrally located, of course, backing up a little bit to
Sure.
Worldwide Technology. Obviously, with the loss of Virginia Park Motorsports Park last weekend because of the weather.
Yeah.
In Columbus lost a D3 race earlier this year, some divisions, nobody's running away with that.
Right.
So,
Yeah, so I mean, it could have been, the perfect storm of, between being a double race and some events getting canceled or postponed. But even still, that still is just a mind-boggling number. I would love to know the history of the races in the last, well, you can't say the last couple of years because of COVID, but I would love to know what the draw of those centrally located races are, what they normally are compared to what it was this past weekend. It's pretty crazy.
let me see if I can reach our stat man, see if he can find something out for us.
Is that Rob?
But you never know. Hey, again, we have resources. Give me 2 seconds here.
So do we have any local racers that did good out there?
Frank Volpe, is it Frank A is the son and Frank is dad? There's Frank A and there's Frank.
They can both beat me up, so I got to talk nice to both of them. It don't matter to me which one it is.
But yeah, Frank, one of the Frank Volpes brought it home.
It was definitely senior in his top sportsman car.
As I say, I figured it was the top sportsman car because he's right there in points.
Yep.
Let's see. Give me 2 seconds. I actually have it right here. Yeah, it was Frank Senior.
Yeah. No, I knew that because I sent him a text congratulating him.
Yeah, so he brought it. He brought home top sportsman in race number 2. So, sorry, I'm trying to do 4 things at once. Yeah, Frank, top sportsman. TC Smith runner up. I assume it was in Super Comp. And then, of course, Al Kenny won top dragster in the first race. And there's also, it hasn't been confirmed that he has the Division 1 championship. I've been told he has, but it's not confirmed yet because there's still other stuff that he. Sorry, I'm talking with our guest. Other races that can count towards the championship.
Yep. So Division 1 was represented pretty good out there.
It was. Sorry.
Are you chatting with our guest?
Yes, I am.
Oh, good. We're just trying to do the usual format of get the guest in, wrap with them a little bit, and then we'll move on to results.
And everything else that happens to pop up. Were you able to contact that person that we talked about at the beginning of the show?
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
Oh, let's see here.
This is fun though. This is why we enjoy doing this, because we make it up as we go.
Yeah. He said he should be around, but he hasn't answered me back yet. But I know he's listening and typing in here. So
all right, cool.
Announce it until I have confirmation.
But we are working on getting association champions and their promoters as well to come on and join us as the season winds down. Also, the other thing that I've been working on, I've been talking with the stat man, aka Billy Kleinspin,
yep,
about doing some trivia over this winter because we have a bunch of stuff to give away. So we'll come up with something. If anybody can come up with those kinds of questions, Billy is the man.
Yeah, boy, you got that right. All we got to do, we don't even need him. We could just pirate his Facebook page. We'll be able to have like a whole season just with that.
There you go.
He is a very knowledgeable dude, that's for sure.
Oh, and the other thing that came up too is that that I had noticed was obviously everybody talks about teardown, how teardown doesn't happen, teardown's, ridiculous, it's a joke, da 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 da.
Yeah.
But did people notice that at Indy they were checking super comp, super gas? There was a picture actually of super gas.
Super gas, yeah, which you don't see too often.
Right. There were, I don't remember exactly, I think it's 3, maybe 5 cars in the barn. They were checking the grid systems.
Yeah, I want to say, and don't quote me on this, but I want to see it was like all round 2 winners or round 3 winners, which that's another thing is it's kind of like whenever I saw a .90 car get teched, it was always either before first round or after the last time trial. Never ever did I see it, not that I'm a world traveling racer, but I have never seen it get done like that. That was pretty crazy.
And they also
torn
got
down after round 4 at Maple Grove also. Rob,
Yep.
who did .90 guys or just people in general?
interactive, baby, interactive.
That's it.
But yeah, .90 said, yep,
.90. Wow.
yep. So I do believe there he is.
We got the connection.
There he is. We're gonna have to blow her right behind him too.
Yeah, look at that.
How are you, Lyle? Oh, there he is. You're connecting to the audio now.
It's coming. Nope.
Thinking. All right, try it now, Lyle.
Nothing yet.
No, still nothing. Still nothing. Worst comes to worst, I'll message you my cell phone number. No? All right, hang on just 1 sec. You can just, you can give me a call. We can do it that. We can go old school.
Oh, it says connected. Okay. Now, Lyle, in your lower left corner of the screen, hit the microphone.
Yep.
There we go.
There he is.
There he is.
All right.
Oh man.
Isn't technology great?
Yeah, when it works.
All right. Well, joining us now, veteran pro mod racer. Of course, I'm talking about the one and only Lyle Barrett.
How's it going, man?
Good. How are you, buddy?
Good, good.
Good. Glad you had time to come on and hang out for a little while.
Yeah, appreciate you guys having me.
No problem. Lyle, this is my co-host and partner in the show. This is Pete Senka. He races Super Street and Super Gas up here in Division 1.
Okay.
How are you,
How's it going,
Lyle?
man?
He's been looking forward to talking to you.
Yes, sir.
All right, Pete.
So, Mr. Bennett, I
Right.
am not, I will admit that I'm not a huge follower of the X275 Radio versus the World crowd. But when I first heard your name, that's what you were big in. What exactly did you do in those series?
Man, so I wasn't the first to run X275, but I was one of them.
Okay.
When Radio versus the World, or when X275 started, which was probably, golly, man, I don't know, 2007, maybe.
Yeah, I was going to say it's every bit of 10, 15 years.
Somewhere back in there.
Yeah.
I was 16 years old at the time, 17 years old at the time.
Yeah.
Was bracket racing. I had no previous history in drag racing up until I was old enough to drive a door car. So I
Okay.
didn't no junior dragsters, no
Sure.
anything like that.
Yep.
I played sports, was really focused on that. I didn't race motocross, but I went to a couple tracks and, I guess one of those racing 4-wheelers or whatever,
Sure.
and just I had interest in racing. Like motocross was cool, but I didn't have the balls to do it.
Yeah.
So my best friend growing up was a raced go-karts round track on clay or dirt.
Yep.
And then he moved into an asphalt late model. And I thought because that's what he did, that's what I wanted to do.
Sure.
My dad was a drag racer back in the 80s. When I was born, he quit. He and my grandfather both. And so when it came time, we were actually going to buy a late model. And I came home from high school football practice. And my dad was like, dude, what do you think about drag racing? And we always watched it. Like, I was a huge Greg Anderson fan growing up.
Sure.
Like everybody else was a John Force fan.
Yep.
And so I'm like, well, I mean, sure. It's loud, it's fast, it's got horsepower.
Right.
My dad was like, dude, I've got some knowledge when it comes to drag racing, but I ain't got no my ass from a hole in the ground. We go start racing roundy round.
Yeah.
So like that weekend, Tommy Kirk, owner of MacFab Beadlocks, he had a couple cars and he said, look, I'll sell you this one. It's a 4th gen Camaro with a 468-inch big block in it. Ran 7.0 index, Pro Tree Eliminator type stuff,
Okay.
all 8th mile. Raced that for a year, was fairly successful. We won a race my first year and ran pretty good. Put a 565 in it, ran a year of 6.0, decided we wanted to go heads up radial racing. So we bought a 3rd gen Camaro, had the 565 gone through and upgraded, put nitrous on it. I ran nitrous for a couple years in X275.
Yep.
And mind you, this is when X275 was running 530s.
I know.
So like by the time when we started building the car, X275 was going 530s. By the time we finished the car, they were going like high teens, low 20s. We were going low 30s, high 20s.
Right.
We raced that for a while. We raced it until the class was going 480s and we were going mid to high 490s. And but we are by no means are we super tuners by any means.
Yep.
So we were lifting ring lands and smoking pistons pretty often,
Right.
If we went to the finals, that thing was huffing out of one side.
Yeah, she was tired.
So we felt like we had a good enough grasp chassis wise that we could find some more power elsewhere.
Yeah.
And figure it out. So both myself and Tommy Kirk at the time, he was building a 72 baby blue Camaro. We called the Blue Goose. It was on leaf springs. It was one of the first leaf spring cars to go really fast.
Right.
We both went small block Pro Charger. I ran that for several years. We did really well around home. Like at that time, even your outlaw or your outlaw 275 or, kind of unlimited 275 cars were really just X275 cars that went over there and ran. And then your local guys who just didn't chase the class racing or didn't want to tote the weight would come, and they really weren't any faster.
Sure.
So we wiped up around home for a long time, for several years. I mean, we won probably 80% of the races we went to.
Wow.
And at the time we were running like 460s, the X275 was, we were pretty competitive at that time, but just like everything else, it went 60s and it went 50s and then it went 40, and we just kind of fizzled out following the real hardball X275 guys. And we had decided that, and by the time we our reign around here kind of was ending and the outlaw 275 guys were really starting to run good, we realized we didn't have enough anymore. So we were actually going to build that 4th gen Camaro. I had put the same small block I was running. It was an SBX based deal and put twin turbos on it.
Yeah.
And we had sent the chassis to Customs by Biggin here in Mooresville. He was fixing to start, going through it and updating it and upgrading it and whatnot. And Barry Mitchell, who had a long stint in Radio versus the World, is now a big dog racer at Piedmont Dragway here in North Carolina.
Yeah.
He had bought a complete Radio versus the World package from Proline. It was the chassis, the motor, transmission, everything you needed. You had every single piece you needed to go Radio versus the World racing, but it was just not together.
Yep.
So we bought the car. Eric Yost at Customs by Big and put it together. We started racing it in like March of 2015, probably. We started it in probably March of 14. It just took us a while to get it together.
Yeah.
Really struggled with it early on. It was when Big Stuff 3 was really the only thing available for as far as fuel injection.
Yep.
Holly didn't have anything really that could run, that caliber of car. Fuel Tech wasn't a thing yet.
Fuel Tech wasn't even a thing then, right?
So you were like, it was Big Stuff 3 or something. Fast was still big then.
Right.
But there weren't these, your big name fuel injection guys today didn't even exist.
Yep.
And we really struggled with that thing, just trying to get it together. This was a totally different ballpark. Pete Harrell of Harrell Engine and Dyno, who is now most notably known for tuning Cletus McFarland to that 654 at 221 over the weekend. Pete's been tuning for me since like 2013.
Right.
But it took us most of the year to kind of get a handle on it. We went to Georgia in September of that year, really just trying to, one, give me some seat time, and two, kind of get the combination figured out. It had really ran good through the testing that we had done earlier that week, and we rolled into first round of qualifying in Valdosta that Thursday night, September the 24th of 2015, and had no warnings, no signs before. We had a problem electronics wise. I'm not putting blame on anybody, but we had a fuel injection failure.
Right.
Which caused, what I am most known for, and that's that door car fire down there, and that was the end of my Radio versus the World career. It wasn't the end of my radio career. I went on to drive and still do Jason Digby's leaf spring dart we call the Tooth Jerker.
Yep.
Still the fastest leaf spring car in the world. And I drive the Warpath truck for Grant Guthrie, the twin turbo 65 C10. I've went on to, drive several other radio cars, but like my progression through the ranks, and then
Sure.
the world ended abruptly
Right.
that Thursday night in South Georgia. So I guess that's a very long-winded version of how I got to that point. But
I wasn't sure if I was actually talking to Chris about this before the show started. I wasn't even sure if I was going to mention anything about the accident. I was just going to kind of let you go through it and see if you did.
Right.
Not that I want any details. We don't need any. But one of the things that impresses me about you and your career is the comeback.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, arguably, or probably not even arguably, that was probably the most difficult thing you've ever gone through in your life.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
Right. I mean, it's just devastating, I'm sure.
Yeah.
The physical aspect of it, the losing of the car, the amount of time that you were tied up healing.
Mm-hmm.
I got to tell you, I was asking Chris earlier today, the percentage of people that would even look toward a race car after something like that. The statistics got to be pretty low. The fact that not only are you racing, and not only are you at the top of your game, but you're at the top of the game.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if someone said right now, wave a magic wand and pick a race team that you would like to be affiliated with, if you don't say John Force or, the Colettas, you would say Elite.
Right.
And there are probably a bunch of people that would say Elite before the first two that I mentioned.
Yep.
So it's really one of the things that I was most excited about having you on the show for, was just to talk about from then to now and how you got there, and basically to tip my hat to you, because it's stuff that gives us all inspiration. Just watching you go through it and getting there it's just incredible.
Yeah, and I appreciate it, but I had I don't know. I don't want to say I had doubts, but I was questioning. I remember it like it was yesterday. I laid in that hospital bed with, I'd lost at the time. I had just had my hands were in these big mitts. I had zero independence. I had to learn how to walk. Again at 24 years old, like there were a lot of things that I went through at the JMS Burn Center at the Doctor's Hospital in Augusta.
Yeah.
That probably would have halted most people's career.
Yeah. I don't even question that. That's,
I mean, but there's a couple things. The good Lord had different plans for me. I was 24 years old. I was in pretty good health, and I had a support system behind me that, most notably my family and my close friends, but the support I received from the drag racing community, the racing community as a whole. I don't want to just say drag racing community, because I got support from many different sanctioning bodies, both round track and, like there was a lot that went on. The Carolina Panthers sent me a care package in the hospital.
wow.
Like there was some really cool things and a lot of support that drove me to at least go back to the racetrack.
Sure.
Right. Like I felt like whether I wanted to drive or not, I felt like I owed it to those that had supported me along the way, both financially, the prayers, just the words of encouragement and support. I owed it to them to go back to the racetrack at least, and I decided, because I wrecked in September. I went home in November from the hospital, and I was back at South Georgia Motorsports Park in February.
Wow.
And I went back to the same racetrack, right? And I
Get
flew
right back
to,
on the horse, right?
yep. Well, I mean, I didn't drive anything,
No,
right?
but that's like just
yeah,
going there is getting back on the
but
horse.
I flew to Memphis, Tennessee. Tyler Crossnow, who's now the GM of Virginia Motorsports Park, picked me up. We drove to Sikeston, Missouri, where Daniel Ferris's shop was. Picked up Daniel's rig, and Tyler and I drove from Sikeston, Missouri to Valdosta, Georgia. I stayed and helped Daniel and Tyler that week. My crew and my dad and them came down later in the week, and I knew when I was there that I at least wanted to burn in one more time. Like let's get to where we can drive and let's heal. Let's do everything the doctors say, and then let's at least do a burnout. And then if it feels good, let's stage the car.
Yeah.
Let's go 60 feet, or whatever.
Right.
That June, I got in a bracket car at Piedmont Dragway, and I ran a race. Like I didn't do worth of shit, but I went to the starting line the first time, did a burnout, staged the car, made full runs that day. And I knew then that I wanted to get back in something fast, a radial car, a bottom 4 second, radial car. And that October, just over a year. In fact, it was like a year and a week post crash.
Yeah.
We went to Darlington Dragway. And that was when, Russell Miller and D.D. Miller owned it. Jimmy Bradshaw was the general manager there. And I went back there. We were like the only people at the racetrack. It was so cool.
Right.
We were the only people there. And Jimmy prepped the track as if he was going to set a radio versus the world record that night. And I made like, I don't know, dude. I think I made 4 or 5 runs that day. And I think, well, actually, I know the first pass I made, we went up there, burnout, back up. I was like 0.28 letting go.
Yeah.
It went like 118 or something down low, was on the way to probably a 445, 440, 450 pass. I clicked it off. We ended up going like 430s that day. We went to the Snowbirds, I think, and went high 20s or something like that to reset the record. Went back to Bradenton for the U.S. Streets and went mid 20s to break the record again. And then we went to Valdosta. My first time back in a race car at the track that that I'd had my crash at.
Right.
And we reset the record like 2 more times and won the last Leaf Spring shootout. And I thought at that moment, and I'm not saying it's not still, but that was the most full circle feeling ever.
God.
Like nearly lose my life there. Come back a year and a half later. And
I was going to say, you're talking like shortly after your 1 year anniversary.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're
So
setting records in cars.
yep. So it was a year. I mean, exactly a year after I went back to South Georgia for the first time. Right. So I
Right.
went back and spectated, recovered surgeries and all kind of good stuff.
Sure.
I mean, eyelid reconstructions and all kind of stuff that throughout that next year, and then back to
Right.
February, and we're there, reset the record 2 or 3 times. Won the last Leaf Spring Shootout that they ever held there. And at that moment, I'm like, dude, if we retire today,
Yep.
we've proven one that you can come from way down there,
Right. Right.
and if you just, willing to put your mind to it, nose to the grindstone and keep on digging, I get a lot of credit, man, a lot. But I didn't do it by myself, and I try every time there's a microphone in my face, or I'm with Amanda Busick on the top end at some, national event. I make sure to, to talk about the people the reason that I'm there,
Sure.
like, sure, it was my decision and it was up to me. And, I've been given some awesome opportunities throughout my career to drive some really, really, really nice race cars.
Yep.
Some of the nicest ones there's ever been, some of the most unique. I've been, I mean, in the quarter mile in a door car, I've, and it's crazy to think it, but I've been faster than 90% of the people that ever set their ass in a drag car,
Absolutely.
and it's just cool, to know that I've been given, but it's all been given to me, but
Right.
I say it all the time, you can be given anything, but it's up to you what you do with it, and I've worked really hard throughout my career to perfect my craft.
Yep.
I tend to leave the starting line pretty good. These freaking 250-mile-an-hour quarter-mile door cars are a handful, dude.
Oh, yeah.
And I've got a great car under me, like you said. To be associated with Elite Motorsports is one thing, but to fly the only flag in the Pro Mod class for them is pretty cool. And a
Right.
car that Erica drove in Pro Modified a couple years ago, and it's just, man, it's, sometimes you gotta give yourself the old pinch
Yeah,
deal,
definitely
like
stuff dreams are made
this,
of. Right?
this Wally over my shoulder right here,
Yep.
is the freaking U.S. Nationals trophy, and like, man, I remember as a kid, my dad, we always talked about wanting to go to Indy. We want to go to Indy. We want to go see the U.S. Nationals, and the first time I ever went was in a Pro Mod, which was last
Really?
year, so the first time my dad and I ever went to the U.S. Nationals, we competed in Pro Modified. And I won first round last year. We were in the Pro Charge car at that time. We shortly after that switched to the turbo car, but then we go back this year in the turbo car, and ran I mean, it was just my day, dude. We raced really good the first 2 rounds, and then Eric Dillard and Chris Thorne gave me the semifinal and the final on red lights, but
Yep.
that on the bottom of that Wally, it doesn't say you won this by red light,
Yep.
and that's, I mean, that one right there, then I told Dad, I said, okay, now we can retire.
Yeah. Right.
Like, this is the one I've always wanted to win.
Yep.
But it's never enough, right? And Richard Freeman on the starting line gave my dad the old fishing rod cast and
Sure.
deep hook, and he's right. Like, dude, I want a championship, right?
Yep.
And so it's just been a wild ride, man. I would have never, if you'd have told me 5 years ago, well, if you'd have told me in September of 2015 that I
Sure.
would be a U.S. Nationals champion in 2022, I'd have told you was full of shit,
Exactly.
but
Yeah.
here we are,
Yeah.
dude, and I'm in the top 5 in points, mathematically out of running for the championship this year. Chris Thorne had an excellent year.
Yep.
They dominated for most of the season. It's 1.5 points in Dallas. So I've got a chance to weasel my way into the top 3.
Sure.
But Stevie Fast is closing in on Chris, or has been closing in on him these past few races. Ricky Smith in second place is not going to Dallas.
Okay.
I don't know why.
Yeah.
And we'll leave it at that.
Yeah. Right.
Second place in the points pays $20,000. I believe I'd show up. But that's not my pig, not my farm. If I could find my way into second place, I'd tell him to stay home too, but I can't.
Right.
So it's with 1.5 points in Dallas, it could be interesting. Chris Thorne and Stevie are both great drivers.
Right.
I damn sure wish I was up there in the top 3 and could shake it up with them, because I feel like I perform pretty well under pressure. And I feel like I could give them a run. But I'm gonna go ahead and tell you right now, if it's up to me, I'm gonna ruin it for somebody.
There you go.
I'm not there to give anything away. I won this. So my very first national event I ever won was this very race last year, but my first race in the turbo car.
Okay.
So I am technically I am the defending champion there.
Right.
And I told him, I've told Stevie for the past 2 weeks, I said, look, dude, I'm going there to defend my title,
Sure.
So it'll be interesting, man. At points and a half, it can really shake some shit up.
That's cool. The crew chief, the tuner for Chris's car,
Yep.
is local to me here in Connecticut. Jamie.
Okay.
Miller.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
He's good. I know him very well.
Yeah. Jamie's
Great dude.
unbelievable talent, dude.
He is super talented.
That guy knows a race car from bumper to bumper,
He does.
roof to floor pan. Like,
Yep.
it's unbelievable. I tell him, and he's super humble, which I think
He's
is cool.
super humble. Yeah.
But I tell him all the time, I'm like, dude, you are one of the best to
Yep.
ever peck the keyboard on a freaking drag car ever,
Right.
ever.
And he could do so much more than just the keyboard. That's what.
Can.
That's
Yep.
probably one of the reasons why he's so good at the keyboard,
Yeah.
because
Yep.
he gets what the rest of the car is doing.
Yep.
And I could tell the apple is starting to not fall very far from the tree, because his
Mhm.
son John is
Yep, he's good.
he's getting there too. Yeah,
He
it's
works
one-
on
a lot of
Chris's
genes in that
car.
family for racing. That's for
Yeah.
sure.
That's a fact. That
Yeah,
is a
no
fact.
doubt. Well, I got to tell you, this interview was everything I hoped it would be and more.
Good.
Great story from how you started, and obviously how you made it through the bad times. And
Yep.
I got to tell you, and I know that I'm looking forward to watching you do a lot more racing.
Yeah, I feel like the future's bright, man. I'm not I love Pro Modified. It's what I've always wanted to do, and
Yeah.
I've found a good place to call home.
Yeah.
Justin Elks is my crew chief. He owns Modern Racing here in Mooresville. One of those, that knows a race car bumper to bumper. He was a pro stock crew chief for years. Super talented. I've got a great team, and Ben Stoff's my front half guy, Mike Earl, my back half guy, and then my dad helps us as well. We've got a great team. We're gonna switch gears and get in a screw blower car to go to the Snowbirds here in December. Excuse me. And then next year I plan to race Pro Mod again. I've got the nitro bug, and I've been in talks with Scott Palmer a little bit over the past year or so. So I don't know that I ever will, but I'm hoping to at least possibly license in one of those things. I just think that it would be super cool to hold a Top Fuel license. So
very cool.
I've got some things I want to do. We're as soon as we get back from Dallas, we're getting straight into Valdosta, Georgia, No Mercy prep. I'll be down there in the Warpath C10 here in a couple weeks. Got some no prep stuff in my little beer money car, my little small tire no prep car coming up. Back in the Pro Mod for the Snowbirds, and the next thing you know, we'll be talking about kicking off the 2023 season. So it's there's no such thing as an off season anymore. The off season, we spend it at PRI, and then it's time to grind.
Yeah,
So
yeah, right.
But thank you to you guys for for letting me come on, man. It's always cool to come on here and talk a little bit about what we're doing. I've had great sponsors this year. Birch Brothers Flooring came on here at the end of the year to get me through, and I appreciate those guys out of Raleigh, North Carolina. Obviously Elite Motorsports, Richard Freeman and everybody there. And like you said, an excellent team to be associated with, and now the largest professional race team in the NHRA. 8 pro stock cars, which is baffling.
I know, it's crazy.
And Richard, or 7, and Richard tells me I can make it 8 anytime I want to. So I would like to I'm going to get a pro stock license as well. It's just cool, man. To call someone like Eric Enders, who's probably the greatest of all time, to rip loose of the clutch in a pro stock car, my teammate.
Yep.
The Coughlins, TJ is a good buddy. All the guys there, Aaron Stanfield, all the Quadra guys, Bo Butner.
Yep.
We fellowship together and eat together and hang out, and it's just cool, man. To walk through the pits and say hey to people that I used to look up to and
Yeah,
have a
right.
beer at the bar. It's just
Yeah, now you're part of the team, right? That's
it's
great.
unbelievable, man.
Yeah,
But
yeah. Hey, we do have, before you go, we have one watcher that has a question for you. Chris,
Okay.
you got that?
Yeah, actually there's two now. The first one is from Rob Keister. He's the promoter of the Mid-Atlantic .90 Association. Asks, what are your thoughts on the radial drivers making the switch over to Pro Mod? And how do other drivers feel with them stirring the pot?
I think you're gonna see a push from the Pro Mod guys or from the radial guys towards Pro Mod, and for a couple reasons. The radial racing has gotten so fast and so expensive, and so the atmospheric conditions and the track prep they're so dependent. Like, and we've done it to ourselves. I complain about this all the time. We demand the nastiest, stickiest, just most gangster track prep that any track prepper can possibly provide, and if they don't provide it, we scold them, we cuss them, we trash them on the internet. The track's junk, this is unbelievable. The times of tuning to the racetrack are gone.
Right.
As radial racers, we show up and we say, well, I mean, my car, radio versus workout. When my car will go 352, I'm gonna leave the 352 in it. Let the track come to me. We no longer tune to the surface,
right?
And it's ruining. It's killing it. It's you have to race at night. All late into the night. You can't race in July, and people are just they're tired of it, man. You got to race for 4 or 5 days. And in pro modified, like we don't ever stop. It might be hot as but they race all year long, 1-2 day events. And it's just, and I'm a radial racer at heart, it's where I come from, but slick tire racing, it's better entertainment. And we've in the radio world, we've lost touch with the fact that we are in the entertainment business.
Right.
Like yes, no, I'm there to race. Well, fair, but if you're not putting on a show and you're not putting asses in the seats, then there's no racetracks for you to go race your cars at. So you got to remove yourself from racer Lyle and start focusing on the entertainment side and putting on a show so that the people come to watch you race and the racetracks can afford to stay open, because the racetracks don't afford to stay open just because you as the racer show up to race.
Right.
The racetracks afford to stay open because they sell hot dogs at the concession stand and put asses in the seats. Period. End of discussion. So for slick tire racing, and it's why no prep is so big. There is no track prep. It doesn't matter. Right. We race on the surface that we're given, and they're 1 day events. There's cars constantly. The only time there's downtime and there's tractors on the racetrack is if somebody oils it down or crashes. And there again, we're in the entertainment business. People watch NASCAR because they like to see the wrecks.
Right.
And, it's with the no prep deal, the chances of us wrecking are higher. I mean, I hate to say that, but it's true.
Right.
So we're on the verge. Now we're on the verge of out of control all the time, as much power as these cars make. But we put on a better show when there's cars going up and down the racetrack. You see it more and more now in the live stream chats and the post craziness that goes on Facebook. Is all I saw was a tractor going up and down the racetrack. And at a radio race, that's what you're going to see, because we have demanded this track prep. So, there's no more give from us, and it's all take. We won't.
If you look at the people in the stands at any given no prep race,
right?
Stands are packed.
But you don't have to leave.
And granted, they're not lighting up the scoreboard, so we don't know what they're running.
Right.
But rather they're running 430s or 380s.
Right.
They're side by side because they're racing the track.
Right.
In the race, the candles are lit, the blowers are making noise, and they're all finishing within a car or two of each other going through the stripe.
Yep.
at that point, I don't really think people give a shit if it's a
They don't.
430 or a 390.
They don't.
They're seeing good racing. They're keeping track of a point series.
Yep.
Now it's so popular. They're watching their TV fans. And you hit the nail on the head. You don't even have to prep that track.
No.
You got to make sure there's no oil on it, and off you go.
Right. So then the overhead for the racetrack is much less. It's super expensive to lay that glue down. So if the racetrack can, all they have to do is open, get their tractor out, and brush the track off, right? And you've got what you've got, and that's even the case for our small tire no prep stuff that we've got going on around here, which in the Southeast it's huge. These racetracks are kind of have a rebirth. They found their niche in these marginal or no prep type events. And a lot of these tracks are testing and tuning on a Wednesday or Thursday night, and then having a race on Friday and Saturday. And it's just what I call leftover prep. It's just whatever's there, guys. If it's still really good because the weather's been good, awesome. If it rained like cats and dogs on Friday morning and they had to scrape it to get it right, well, this is what you got, and it's awesome, man. We're back to bi-ply racing. You've got cars in squat, and the front end's hiked up, and dude, it's cool, and like I think Tyler Crossnow with the PDRA has came into his own a little bit with these two small tire classes he's kind of brought back. We've got Super Street, which is contested, on a 28-10-5 only, and you've got Pro Street, which is contested on a true 10-5, a 33-10-5W, so it's, and like on wheelie bars, man, it's cool, and it's just better drag racing, man. And I've, Duck and I don't really get into it on the internet, but I'm like I told you when I started this rant, like I'm a radial racer at heart. It's where my roots and where I came from, but I am a full blown slick tire racer now. I still drive some radial cars and will drive anybody's radial car. Like it, I'm not, but I just enjoy the slick tire racing, man. It's instead of 4 out of 10 maybe going down the racetrack, you got like 7 to 8 out of 10 that do go down the racetrack side by side, and it's just, that's better entertainment, man. And that's what we need. People's attention span, these things right here, have people, that they doesn't take long for some stuff not to be going on in the racetrack and they're out of touch, but you keep some loud, like you said, some blowers, making noise, some nitrous purge going on, some candles lit, some hood scoops flying through the air. That's what people want to see. And this no prep slick tire racing is just, it's really, really came into its own. And I'm pretty pumped to see where it's going, man. I'm going to stick with it for as long as I can.
Excellent. Good stuff.
Last question. Will Elite ever be running in Top Fuel? If you obviously, if you can or cannot answer that,
I doubt it.
You doubt it.
Anything's possible, right? Richards is always down to find another niche, another market if there's some money to be made there. I'm not going to say no, and I'm not going to say yes, and I'm not saying that because I'm hiding anything. I'm saying that because I truly don't know. I think there's been some rumblings of a possible team buy that, that maybe Richard was going to do or something, but dude, I don't know. He is super invested, obviously, and has a great thing going with his pro stock program. And you start spreading yourself thin like that, and you tend to lose focus on really what you got going on. And they're looking at a 5th championship with Erica this year. I think they've got 3 drivers in the top 4. And so obviously pro stock is the primary focus, have an excellent engine program there.
Let's not forget about the business that he runs too.
Correct. Yeah. They've got RV sales, they've got elite cultivation now. They've got a lot going on. So
elite.
Yep. Is it possible? 100%.
Sure.
But I don't know. I don't know. That's all I got.
Mr. Bennett, before we say goodbye, just one thought that I had listening to you talk. You had said earlier that you've been very lucky and had the opportunity given to you to drive some pretty incredible cars.
Yep.
I will argue that you've earned what has been given to you, because people don't just give their shit away
Yeah.
to random people.
Yeah.
You've definitely earned your spot where you are in more ways than one.
Yeah. Well, I
And that's
appreciate
why
it.
people are doing the things for you that they're doing.
Yeah, my and it's really kudos to my dad, man. He's had a very successful business as I was growing up and was able to afford to, we had some really nice stuff and I got to kind of cut my teeth in some fast race cars and was able to kind of build up my skill set and, like I said earlier, perfect my craft and and it's like I told you earlier, you can be given anything, but it's up to you what you do with that, and where you take it. And I took um, the full opportunity to show that I was capable of driving just about anything, it's cool that people took enough notice to how well we had done, to trust me to drive their cars, and none of these things are cheap, right?
Sure.
They're all super expensive and really, really, really nice and fast race cars. And I'm just grateful that it was my name that was in the hat, and I've, have proved to be worthy enough to continue to drive these things, and I hope to do it for many, many, many more years. I've got a new baby in here. He's 4 months old, and I'm sure that he's going to want to climb in one of these days, and I may have to take a step back, and share some of this seat time. But
Yep.
but as of this moment, he's gonna have to earn it. Like you're gonna have to kick me out, boy.
Well, we know that we got someone to root for at least 15 more years.
That's
so.
right. Yep. Yeah. But if that's what he decides he wants to do, then I'm going to give him, hopefully I can provide him the same opportunity that my dad did, and I'm sure at some point my dad's money will stop going towards me, and grandpa's account will start funding Nash D's. So
Yeah, right.
I better be very successful in my business ventures and be able to afford my own, because I got a feeling I won't have any help from the old man here before long. Oh, we'll be paying for junior dragsters and go-karts and
Yep.
and whatnot. So but no, it's cool, man. We've my dad's always done it with me. I'm not, really wouldn't do it without him, I don't think, so dad's young. I think he's gonna kill me if I forget. 50 he's 53 years old or something like that.
Oh
So
my
he's still,
God. I know. That's
My
how
age.
old I
Good
am.
Lord.
so he's
Good.
he's still in good shape, and and goes with me everywhere. And I don't know that he wouldn't. I don't know that I've really ever given him the opportunity. I'm kind of selfish when it comes to driving these things.
Yeah.
But dad hadn't made a pass in a race car in a really long time. So I may have to dial beer money back just a little bit and let him rip down through there in a turbo. I don't think he's ever driven anything fast turbo wise, and I think that would be pretty funny. So may give dad the opportunity to drive something here in the near future, because I can't drive all these things. So
Very cool.
I have to see what happens.
Well, Lyle, I have to say, first off, I have to apologize for a little bit of gap at the beginning with the delay getting you on.
Oh, you're good, man.
But I definitely say, and I'm sure Pete will agree with me, sir, you qualify as a pure 100% badass.
Well, I appreciate it, man. Hopefully we can keep doing it for a long time, because we sure are having fun. I can tell you that.
No doubt.
Yep.
Love to have you on again sometime.
Anytime, man.
I'm going to say next year after you win the Pro Mod Championship.
I'm down, and it would be about Vegas is usually Halloween, so fast forward about 3 or 4 more weeks, and hopefully I'll be kicked back on the rooftop at the Bellagio or something about 2 weeks post championship win, spending every last dollar of that 50 grand that you can win when you win the championship. Right. So
very cool.
Pencil me in.
You got it.
All right, buddy.
My man.
All right, man. Thank you, guys. I appreciate it.
Thanks.
All right, Lyle, thank you so much for your time, buddy. Appreciate you coming on and hanging out with us.
Yes, sir. No problem. Anytime.
All right.
See ya.
Lyle Barnett.
So I have to take a quick moment here and give a big thank you to you. I have had the opportunity in the last, it's been year and a half, to interview some people and have conversations with people that I never dreamt I would ever be able to talk to. And I will tell you that when it comes to planning this show and planning the guests that are on it, I contribute about 0.5% as to what goes into this show. I usually log on about 30 seconds before it starts. A year and a half, Chris is still sending me the freaking code to get on because I can't remember it.
Well, because I only send you 500 messages a week.
Yeah,
What are
I
you
can't
doing?
scroll back.
How's school going? Where are my parts for my scooter?
Yeah, right.
That,
Yeah,
whatever
they're
else.
there.
They're still in the box on top of the dip tank.
Yep. But no, seriously, thank you, because you know, the amount of people that we talked to, you know, a couple of weeks ago we had little Jeggy on, Lyle Bennett. I mean, even the local people that, you know, you say hi when you go by them at the track, but you get a lot more in depth with them. I would have never done any of this without you, so I appreciate that, because
Well, thank
that
you very
interview
much.
was fantastic. That
That was
that is
that-
one of my highlights, without it.
that that's in a serious competition for #1 interview.
Yeah. And I mean, even the crazy motorcycle rider, Steve Johnson. We had him on. I mean, it's just, you know, there's people, Joe Costello. It's just great. I mean, I don't think anyone will question how much I love the sport, and being able to interact with these people. I mean, you know, even Billy from Maple Grove, right? You know, I've seen him at the track dozens of times. Hey, how you doing? But never knew how knowledgeable he was, or, you know, how passionate he is about the sport. Good stuff. I'm very, very appreciative.
The one thing that I have learned is that you have a preconceived notion of how people are gonna act.
Yep.
You get them on, you get them into our little environment that we have here, you know, and it's even of our guests that I had on last week, Dina Parisi. She's like, "You guys aren't really serious, so all that serious." I said, "No." I said, "We're actually a couple of really goofy people."
Yeah.
I said, "We work very well with each other." I said, "But we're just goofballs, you know." And I said, "We don't take it seriously." I said, we're here to have fun."
Have fun, but talk about the show that we love. Yeah.
Yeah. And being able to, I'm lucky where in the situation that I'm in personally, I have more time to do it than you do.
Right.
You have, you have a job, you have a business to run, and so on and so forth. I'm unfortunately in my situation retired,
Right.
and I have a whole hell of a lot of time to not drive my wife crazy, and I do this stuff.
Yeah.
But it's really awesome to see the flip side of people. Okay, they're professional racers, but again, like I said, we bring them into our little goofy bubble here,
Right.
and you see a different side of these people.
Yep. No, it was that was cool. That
Yeah.
was definitely cool.
Yeah.
It looks like we're sort of kind of getting confirmation from Rob for next week.
Yeah.
Hold on.
I just saw that.
Yeah. So you know what? We're gonna put him on the spot. We're gonna have Rob Keister on next Tuesday for he's going to do a little year-end wrap-up. He'll announce the winners and runner-ups of the last 2 races that he had this past weekend at ATCO. And then he could go over whatever he wants to as far as top 5 or top 10 of each one of the .90 categories.
Now, to throw a little props out to the whole Mid-Atlantic .90 Association as a group, they had 100 cars on Saturday. They were at ATCO for their season finale.
Right.
100 cars on Saturday, and I believe he said it was 82 or 85 on Sunday.
Yep.
So
it's again, I love it's a win-win, right? You love to see the local groups doing good. right? The smaller independents like Rob's or like the Super Street Association up at Lebanon Valley.
Yeah.
You love to see the bracket racing programs do good at these local tracks. Because let's face it, bracket racing pays a lot of bills at the drag strips, you know? And then you see the big events, the national events, the divisionals, all that stuff. I mean, it's just, again, if you're a fan of the sport, which, you know, obviously you and I and anyone listening to this show, we're all fans of the sport, and we love to see the success. It's one of the reasons why we enjoyed this interview tonight, right? That's the definition of a success story. Well,
A to Z A to Z success story right there.
right. And you know, the same thing with these tracks that are, you know, when you have diesel fuel that's over $5 a gallon, and the $150 you used to buy in groceries to throw in the motorhome to go racing is now $250 or $300. You know, everything being damn close to double what we're used to, and still turning out numbers like this on a sport that's supposed to be dying.
Yep.
It's got to make you feel good about the state of the union that we're in right now.
Absolutely. You know, hopefully, as you well know, I'm not into politics. I don't want anything to do with politics.
Yep.
Very rarely will I even talk about it. You know, hopefully, come November, things will get back to normal. Hopefully. But I hope in one hand and you know what else in the other one.
And
see
you know what? That's everything has always been right.
Everything fluctuates.
It's always been waves. We paid high prices before. We're going to pay them again. It's just, you know, just hope that everyone can make it. That's the big thing. I worry the most about the people whose, you know, income is fixed, paycheck to paycheck, and now we're getting into heating season where they're paying over $5 a gallon for home heating oil.
Yep,
That
and it's
bothers
predicted.
me more than anything.
It's predicted to go to $9 a gallon.
How do people survive that?
Again, not getting into politics. This will be the last thing I say about it. The local utility here where I live in Concord.
Yep.
Just got a 77% rate increase approved. So my $150, $200 electric bill is probably going to be knocking on $500 after December 1st.
It's crazy.
So anyways, enough
Unfortunately,
with that
it doesn't
crap.
just stop there, right?
No, it doesn't.
It's the utilities, it's the grocery store, it's the property taxes, it's the gasoline, it's the diesel, it's not ending. And
Yep.
again, no desire to be political, but the point we're trying to make is on top of all that, which is a ton, on top of all that, to see the numbers and the participation that we're seeing at the racetrack is mind-blowing to me. And that's, you know, that's a good thing.
I'm the first one, as you well know, because you have to rein me in at times, to bag on certain sanctioning bodies about things.
Yep.
But again, you know, like we've said, well, mostly you have said, you know, 700 plus cars in the central part of the country.
It's kind of hard to find fault with anything going on there, right?
Yeah.
Listen, we'd all love to go 3 or 4 rounds and take home more money than we're taking home. We would all love to win or runner up at an event and have it pay what it paid 25 years ago, right? I mean, we would all love it. I get that. I understand it. I understand the people that got out of it because it's not what it used to be. But at the end of the day, it's what we got, right? It's what we have.
This is the playground. These are the toys that you have.
Right.
Take it or leave it.
Great options, right? So we could do the divisional national thing. We could go to any one of the local tracks around here, Maple Grove, Epping Island, Lebanon Valley, all have great bracket racing programs. We could do the series like the Dave Lay's Super Stock series, Rob series, the series up at Lebanon Valley. They've got Top Sportsman, Top Dragster series up at Epping. I think they have a Super Street series up at Epping too.
Yeah, they have like a track based.
Right, right.
So
I
so
mean,
essentially
there are
like Nessa.
so many options, and from what I could see, it looks like all those options are getting supported very well.
Yep.
So I mean, it's a, again, with all the adversity that's been thrown at the typical racer over the last year to year and a half, it's good to see.
Yep.
It's definitely good to see.
You know, you can have your cake, which is the association races. You can
Sure.
win more money, and you can eat it too by having that little man in the sand.
Right.
Again, it just depends on what you want. I think one of the things we should, or I'll do next year, is when all the schedules for, let's go from like mid-Atlantic up to my area,
Yep.
get released. I'm going to print out a calendar. I'm going to go through all the schedules and I'm going to write the dates in, and let's see how many weekends in a row of racing we can get lined up.
Oh God. I bet
Between, again,
about every
yeah,
weekend.
the Top Dragster, Top Sportsman at New England, the Super, I think they also have a Super Comp series too. I can double check with Jamie Blake.
They do.
They do, yeah. So Super Comp, Super Street, and they might have Super Gas as well. Nessa, Mid Atlantic, East Coast Stock, Super Stock,
Right.
All Stars, the All Stars, and whatever else might get thrown into the mix. I bet we could fill up a bulk of the summer from end of May till probably end of July, beginning of August.
Yep.
I bet you we could fill up every
And
weekend.
don't forget, if you really wanted to get crazy, right? Lebanon Valley has no drama. You've
Yep.
got Scotty and Ralphie's race that I helped them out with.
Yep.
No Time, No Rules race. They're up to 2 races and 2 or 3 track rentals a year. You got the big shows like, again, I keep saying Lebanon Valley just because I know their schedule, right? They got the Hemmings Motor News show. You could go on. I mean, you could literally, like when people trash a national event, right? Or they go to the national event and they get up and go get a cheeseburger when the .90 cars come out. And all those cars suck. And I always say, you go to a national event, there are so many classes to choose from. You don't have to like them all, right? If you love super stock, but stock is boring to you, great, go watch super stock. If you like the pros, but you don't like the sportsman, or vice versa, or you like comp, but you don't like .90, or there's so much stuff to choose from that you don't need to badmouth any of it. Just go watch what you watch. Well, the same applies for all of racing, right? If you don't want to do the national or divisional thing, you could join the smaller series, or you could go bracket racing, or you could do a little bit of everything. I mean, there is so many options that we really can't afford to have any part of our sport badmouth. It's not necessary. Go pick what you like and fall in.
And you may not like any of it, but you're going to go and you're going to see one of the best car shows ever.
Where's that?
At any racetrack.
At any
You're going to see
right.
some of the most beautiful cars you've
Right.
ever laid your eyes on.
I mean,
you got guys there that have more invested in their paintwork than they do in their friggin' pickup truck in their house.
Yep. You have a lot. If you even are interested in cars, you have so many options in drag racing. From, like you said, it could be as simple as walking around the pits and acting like it's a car show, to watching John Force go 330 miles an hour, and anything in between.
Yep.
That there's really no point in bad mouthing any one particular part of it. It's your opinion is what it is. If you like a certain aspect, go with it.
Yep.
and leave the rest to the people that like other things. That's fine.
Absolutely. Rob, I assume you're still listening, so I'm gonna say yes if you can make that happen. All right, so you want to hit up some results so you can go take a shower and get tucked in?
Yeah, quickly.
All right, race number 1 at St. Louis, Missouri, Illinois, Worldwide Technology Raceway Park. Super Comp, do you have it pulled up?
I don't. Go ahead.
Okay. Super Comp, again, this is race number 1. Super Comp champion Hugh Meeks over Landon Stallbomber. Super Gas, Scott Deffenbaugh over Bob Locke. Super Street, Phil Smida over Mark Von Heater. Comp Eliminator, they had a ton of Comp Eliminator cars too.
How many do they have?
30 something.
How many?
I think it was 30 something.
That's about the biggest field I've ever heard.
Yep.
Wow.
Again, Comp Eliminator, Patrick Ross over Scott Charnas. Super Stock, Logan Belanger over Peter Diagnolo. Boy, Peter's just
I was just gonna say, I was just gonna stop you and say, how hot has that dude been this year?
U.S. Nationals, $30,000 the weekend after.
Yep.
And then I think he run it up.
Did he knock down a
It
10
was-
grander in between or something?
I think he run it up again in his super stock car. Not too far after that, maybe Z-Max.
Crazy, right?
Yep. Stock Eliminator, Bobby Brannon over Brent Kopetka.
Yeah.
Top Sportsman, Darian Bosch over Bruce Duncan. Top Dragster, and possibly Division 1 Top Dragster champ. I was told he is, but I've also been told that it's still open for debate.
Right.
Of course, Al Kenny over Greg Rice. All right, so that is race number 1. Give me 2 seconds to go to race number 2. Race number 2 at St. Louis, Chicago, Missouri, Illinois, Worldwide Technology Raceway Park. With the lovely addition of Top Alcohol Dragster Joey Severance over Jared Dreher. Top Alcohol Funny Car Doug Gordon made the big comeback after wrecking his alcohol funny car to take the win over Red Hot Sean Bellemure. And cool thing, check this out. Gordon won the race. Bellemure runner up. Number 1 qualifier, Sean Bellemure. Low ET, Sean Bellemure. Top speed, Doug Gordon.
Yeah, it's a Doug Gordon sandwich there on the sheet.
Yep. And smushed them. Super Comp, Bob Fuller over Division 1 Hot Shoe TC Smith in Super Comp. Super Gas, Bob Locke over Luke Bagacki. Super Street, Phil Smida over James Wilson. Comp Eliminator, Michael Compton over Chad Vogues. Super Stock, Mark Nowicki over Jimmy Hidalgo. And almost with the double up in Stock Eliminator, Jimmy Hidalgo over Joe Santangelo. Now, I saw the video for the Stock Eliminator final. Cooter was 001 on the tree for the win.
Yep.
And Santangelo was 003 in the negative for the red.
Ooh.
For the runner up. Imagine if two thou, if they had hit,
Yeah.
I mean, actually it's 3.
That would have been a run.
It's 2 thou. Big shout out to our good friend. Woo! Frank Volpe brought home the Wally in Top Sportsman. He's I think he's number 4 or 5 in division points. I'll have to double check it. Today's what, Tuesday? I'll check it maybe Thursday to see where he's at.
Yeah.
But again, Frank Volpe, Top Sportsman winner over Alan Hebert. Top Dragster is Zach Sackman over Todd Datweiler.
Yeah, I'll go with that.
That,
Dollar.
ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, is all your results from the double up. 700 plus cars at Chicago, St. Louis, Missouri, Illinois Worldwide Technology Raceway Park. And I'm being told that that Pete was runner up at Charlotte. That's what it was. So I was right. Not bad for a guess.
Yeah.
I'm getting good at this.
Cool.
Eventually I'll have it down pat. Just to let everybody know too, one of the quick things before we get out of here, I've been talking with Billy Kleinsman. We're gonna do some trivia stuff over the winter. We have a bunch of stuff left over to give away. Also, the guessing game is being transferred to the Dutch. I will bump that back up. And the Dutch is actually next weekend. So that's going to be the guessing game, the Dutch. I assume that the juniors will still be there. I think maybe I'll have to check. I'll check with Billy. He'll find out. Let me know. But thank you to Lyle Barnett, our guest tonight. That was a kick-ass interview.
Great interview.
If you weren't a fan of his before the show, you gotta be now. And if you're not, you're wrong.
It's as simple as that.
It is. It's as simple as that. So that being said, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, join us next Tuesday night. The big man may or may not be here. I'm not 100% sure, but that's all right, because we're going to have Rob Keiser from Mid-Atlantic.90 on with us to talk about the season-ending championships. And you never know what else is going to happen.
That's it.
It's a long week.
See you, my friend.
Toodles, everybody. Have a great night. If you are heading anywhere to lay some rubber down, be safe, race safely, have fun. Again, Tuesday night, 7 p.m. Eastern. Be there.